Hi all, this is Upasana from Edureka, and in this session we are going to talk all about leveraging R to expand the capabilities of Power BI. Now before we begin, let's discuss the agenda for today. So first up, we are going to talk about why do we need to integrate R and Power BI. Next, we are going to talk about how the R integration works, the various ways in which you can use R in Power BI desktop. Then we are going to talk about a few demos. We're going to discuss a few demos, a few very easy ones, which will help you get a better understanding of how R works in Power BI. And then finally, I would take up a few queries which you all have. So yes, this session is not only about learning about R integration in Power BI. Actually, I want to show you a few cases of the technology in the form of really easy demos. So before we start, I want to ask how many of you guys are familiar with one or both of these technologies? Can we have a show of hands? A show of hands, please. Okay, so as expected, a few of you are familiar with R, but many of you are not. So we're going to start with a very short overview of R, what R is, and why do we need to integrate it with this particular platform. And then we'll discuss the specifics of how it works integrated with this platform. Yeah? So without much ado, let's get started. Now why do we need R in Power BI? So first up, let's talk some stats because R is a statistician's language after all. R over the years has been the #1 software for data analysis. Apart from that, it is also the seventh most popular programming language that is being used as of 2018 according to IEEE. Yeah. So its importance takes place with more than 2 million users already using it. It's almost applicable in all forms of statistical coding and applied sciences. And we have here considered to be very famous for its rich visualization that you can do with R. Specifically, it's very important to the essence here in Power BI for advanced analytics purposes. Apart from that, this is probably something that most of you know. R has more than 10,000 packages in CRAN that will help you in functions like forecasting, bucketing, correlations, all this cool stuff that you hear about R today. And here is something which interests me the most. R has over 200 local R user groups worldwide. So you can find a user group near you by following this link, which is given right here. Make the most of it, form a community, learn more about R and Power BI through these groups. All right, now let's discuss how the R integration works. Yeah. Now the R integration works in two ways. First up, what you see here is the R script. Now, this is how you use visualizations in R in Power BI. Yeah. And the other thing is using R script as a data source. This is where you take in code from your whatever R studio that you're using, any IDE or your regular R, and then you use it as a data source in Power BI. Okay, so let's start with a quick demo to discuss this visual aspect of R in Power BI. Now this is our Power BI, this is a clean sheet. So let's just see how can we use our script in Power BI. All right. So first up, there are a few prerequisites. First of all, you need to have your R or R Studio. You can download it from here. This is the cran.r. You can download the R package from here. Power BI in no way is a launcher for R. You can only use your R scripts in Power BI, but you'll have to download it beforehand. So keep in mind that when we are talking about using our scripts from within Power BI, we are not really replacing the built-in M language in Power BI. It is really about using R as a data source or as a medium to visualize in Power BI. So another prerequisite is you can go to options and settings, go to options again. This takes some time, so be patient. So yeah, so step one after installing R is make sure you're all wired up. So if you've downloaded like the latest Power BI, you can come here through options. Make sure that you're pointing to the right R home directory. Yeah, the right folder where you have the R version installed, where you might have multiple versions of R, but you need to point it to the R directory that you're using. Also, you can use your, like I'm using my R Studio here, you can use your R Studio here or any other IDE. So that's it for the setup. So let's finally take a quick look at these examples. So firstly, you need to have a data frame. This is what I am using. You can download it. I'll ask the Edureka team here to put up the link somewhere so you can go along, use it along with this session. So I'm going to read this data set. And you can see the big R right here, the R icon. You can read the data set. And then, yeah. So let me give you a little background about this data set. This is basically a Forex data set. You do not need to know much about this because the demo can go on without it. It basically shows values of various currencies since 1999. We have a few popular currencies right here. We have the US dollars, we have the Japanese yen, we also have INR, we have a bunch of different currencies right here. And you can totally treat it how you would treat any other data set in your Power BI. You can go to your queries. You can use your Power Query on it, make changes, add columns, just the way you would any other data set that you have imported to your Power BI. Right here. If I wanted to transform, manipulate, or add any columns, remove any columns, I could use the Power Query editor. Right now, I don't want to make any changes to this. So I'm going to close this. And let's go back to the script. So basically what you have to do is, I open this up right here. I'm going to make a pretty simple plot. I'm just going to get my date here, and I'm going to use, let's say, the pound sterling, the UK pound sterling. And you see how it starts to form code right here in the R script editor. I'll just make this all right. Now I can just make a simple plot right here. Now another thing different about running R scripts in Power BI and running R scripts in RStudio is that you do not have to do this whole select your line and then run it individually. You can just run them all together using this run script option right here. And there we have it. There we have a visualization. Okay, it's too big. Or we could go for something like really simple, like a scatter plot. And there we have our scatter plot. Now you can just go on and make really beautiful visualizations with this. You can use your ggplots, you can use various other tools, various other packages from R, and R is really known for having really nice visualizations. I'm sorry, really nice and rich visualizations. But what is more interesting to me here is when we can use R scripts as a data source. This is something pretty easy. But using R as a data source is something that intrigues me more. Yeah, so let's go ahead and see it. So for that, you need to go to your get data. This might take some time. And right at the end, you might find something known as R script. You connect to it. Okay, now let's try something really simple. This is more like a hello world example, if you will, which will allow me to talk through some of the capabilities between Power BI and R. So let's just use an R norm 100. All right, let's create a data frame here. Your regular data.frame. Now remember, you only get the data set in your Power BI if you form a data frame in your R. So no data frame, no data set. This might take some time. Since you made the data frame here, it appears just the way you would get any other data set that you can pull in from your CSV files or your Excel files. Let's just load this. Okay, this is what it looks like. You can then just treat it as you would any other Power BI data set. You can make visualizations and graphs. You can make charts out of it. Just treat it like any other data set that you have pulled into your Power BI. So let's see if we can do something more interesting with it. All right. So I have some code here, which is this is a data set called Gapminder. It is available online. You can download it from any of these websites like Kaggle or Git. What am I going to do is I'm going to first install this package in my R. Okay, and then I'm going to call it to my Power BI. Again, same old, same old. I'm going to get data and I'm going to use the R script option. This is our data frame. This is what our data looks like. You have your countries, you have the continent, year, life expectancy, population, and GDP per capita. This is what our data set. This basically summarizes what our data set is. So let's just load it into our Power BI desktop. Now remember, like I said before, Power BI will only support data frames. So if you have data in any other formats like vectors or complex types, you will have to convert that into a data frame. That is how this integration works. Apart from that, it's actually super simplified. Yeah. So this is what our data looks like. So let's go back to our canvas. So I have already made a dashboard from the Gapminder dataset. Now, if we drill down, you can select each component from each of these graphs and it's going to cross-highlight in every other graph that is here. Suppose I want to see the life expectancy by year and by continent. Here I have all my information. And this is what I like about Power BI. This whole interactive dashboard facility that it provides. In combination with the expanded capability that R gives it, it's one combination to watch out for. You can slice it, dice it, treat it like any other dashboard that you will, not just the Power BI desktop, but even the Power BI service. It's going to work exactly the same. So if you also had created other types of objects apart from this data frame, it wouldn't have pulled that into Power BI. So let me just pick out a year. And you can see the life expectancy of Africa, America, Asia, Europe, and Oceania. You can also see the population in that year, the population growth in all of these continents. Here, definitely you can see GDP per capita. What if I want to slice and dice it, let's say, through advanced filters? I can just go down to visual level filters, select a graph, and then I can just sort out the continents that I want to see. And by drilling down, you can see them in all the other graphs as well. Let's just do this to another graph, just so you get a better idea of how the advanced filter works. Again, Africa, America, and Asia. And if I select, let's say, just one continent right here, we can just see that one continent's population by the year. Yeah? So let's move on to something, say, meatier, more conceptual about this R integration with Power BI. Yeah? Okay. So this is our data set. This is our data set of cars. Here you have various columns like your mile per gallon, your number of cylinders, your displacement, basically a bunch of attributes that make a car, well, a car. Now, if we had to make a correlation plot out of it, this is probably an example you would see all over the web when you talk about the R integration with Power BI. It's the correlation plot. Now if I select it, I already have the script right here. I can also use the launcher right here and open the script in my RStudio. Now, if I run it right here, I get this plot. Now, what is the difference between the plot that I see here and the plot that I get in my Power BI? Now, as you can see, I also have made a donut chart over here, which will give me a distribution between all the auto and manual cars. So, this is how the cross highlighting works. Now see, if I select like the auto section, our graph changes, and now if I select the manual section, our graph changes again. Now this is the advantage of using this visualization in Power BI instead of R. Now let's talk a little bit about this particular correlation plot. Now what we see here, and what we also understand, is how the data manipulates in different colors and attributes. I have hashed out a few commands here, but if I decide to, well, let's say use an H cluster. Now you can see we have a different graph. It will change simultaneously as you keep changing the code. Let's try something else. If we hash this out and run the script again. Now this is a very simple correlation plot, and it looks on the correlation between all the different attributes of the car. The color blue represents really strong positive correlation, while the lighter colors represent a neutral correlation, and the red colors represent a really strong negative correlation. So to illustrate that, for instance, we see that we have a really strong correlation between the horsepower of the car and the number of cylinders that the car has. And it makes sense that the car with 8 cylinders is definitely more powerful than a car with 4 cylinders. But again, a small reminder is that, but then again, a small reminder is that correlation is not necessarily causality, right? So it's just correlation. And if we look at it, the correlation between the horsepower and the number of gears that the car has, that we see, has neutral correlation. All these pink and peach colors that you see. Let me just put on a better looking graph. So that you can only see the upper half of it. Yeah, much better. So let's keep in mind and go back to our visual and investigate. So first we see that all visual shall open like this one library that powers the visual with a simple call of the function. Here, right here, you require your correlation plot and your library. So once you install, this is also one of those packages that once you install in your R, you can just call it anytime. You do not have to install this package again and again. Then again, we've turned it into a data frame, because remember, you cannot have a data set without a data frame in Power BI. After that, you can pretty much experiment with different plotting parameters and then comment and uncomment according to whatever plot you want. Let's try another one, just because. And here we have it, the ellipse. But I don't like it too much, so let's just switch back to the circle. Yeah, much better. So we automatically bounded the areas that you see here in the grayed lines that have a higher correlation. And in these grayed out lines, we have the areas or the parameters which have a lower correlation. Now you can use it basically to script and automatically walk on that data, and I can change it quickly just to illustrate that everything is live and you can control it using Power BI. Just like that. You can even change your visual using any of these icons right here. And now you can actually use the Power BI desktop to manipulate this data, and you can use different visuals in representing the distribution of your data. I picked sports cars, you can pick bikes, you can pick any vehicle or non-vehicular object that you like. With that, we've come to an end of our series of demos. So to conclude, I'd like to say with R's amazing analytics and Power BI's rich interactive visuals, you've sure got yourself a perfect combination that you can share with your colleagues across platforms and consume for yourself. And you could go to our website and check out the Power BI certification training to master all the concepts that I have discussed in brief today and way, way more. Here you can see your upcoming batches, your curriculum, your course details, and at the end of it all, you will be getting an industry recognized certificate on your name. So what could be better than that? So I am open for a few questions now. So if anybody has any queries, you can comment them and I can take up a few of them and answer them. Yeah, so I don't see any questions except for certification queries. So my team will be pinging you a link. All you have to do is fill that up to avail a discount, and our course experts will get back to you as soon as possible. So with that, I conclude my session. Don't forget to drop a comment in case you have any more queries. Thank you and have a great day.